In the heart of Africa, nestled between lush green hills and flowing rivers, lay the village of Mbali. It was a peaceful place where the sun shone brightly and the winds whispered through the trees. The villagers lived happily, farming their land and sharing stories around the evening fire. Mbali was known for its beauty and the kindness of its people. The villagers were like one big family, always helping each other and working together. Kendi, a curious and adventurous girl, lived in Mbali. She was 10 years old and loved exploring the forests and hills around her village. Kendi had a special connection with nature. She could understand the songs of birds and the whispers of the trees. Her best friend was a bird named Nzuri, who often accompanied her on her adventures. Kendi's parents, Mwana and Amani, were proud of their daughter's inquisitive nature. They always encouraged her to learn and discover new things. One sunny day, as Kendi played near the river with Nzuri, she noticed something unusual. The wind, which usually blew gently through the village, had become strong and powerful. It shook the trees and scattered leaves everywhere. The villagers, who were used to the calm breezes, were puzzled and worried about what this change meant. Kendi felt a sense of excitement and curiosity. She knew that the wind carried messages and stories from faraway places. She decided to find out where the strong wind came from and why it was different. Kendi ran back to her house to tell her parents about the strange wind. "Mama, Baba, have you noticed how strong the wind is today?" she asked. Mwana looked up from her cooking and nodded. "Yes, Kendi, it is unusual. We should talk to the elders about this." Amani agreed. "Let's go to the village square and ask them. They might know what this wind means." The family walked to the village square, where the elders were already gathered. The elders of Mbali were wise and knowledgeable. They had seen many seasons and could interpret the signs of nature. When Kendi and her parents arrived, they greeted the elders respectfully. "Elders, we seek your wisdom," Mwana said. "The wind today is different. It is strong and powerful. What does it mean?" The elders listened carefully. After a moment of silence, Elder Jengo, the oldest and wisest of them all, spoke. "This wind is a sign of change. Long ago, a similar wind brought important messages from the spirits. We must pay attention and be prepared for what is to come." The villagers nodded in agreement. They trusted the wisdom of the elders and knew that they needed to be ready for anything. Kendi felt a sense of determination. She wanted to understand the wind's message and help her village. "Elders, may I go on a journey to find out where this wind comes from and why it is different?" she asked. Elder Jengo looked at her with kind eyes. "You are brave, Kendi. The spirits have chosen you for this task. Go with our blessings and find the answers we seek." With the elder's blessing, Kendi set off on her journey. She packed some food, a water bottle, and a small blanket. Nzuri perched on her shoulder, ready to accompany her on this adventure. As Kendi left the village, her parents hugged her tightly. "Be careful, Kendi," Mwana said. "We believe in you," Amani added. Kendi smiled and waved goodbye, determined to uncover the mystery of the strong wind and bring the answers back to her village. Kendi walked deep into the forest, following the direction of the wind. The forest was dense and filled with the sounds of nature. Birds chirped, leaves rustled, and animals moved through the underbrush. Kendi felt a sense of wonder as she walked, her eyes wide with curiosity. She knew the forest well, but this journey felt different. It was as if the trees and animals were guiding her, whispering secrets and showing her the way. As Kendi walked, Nzuri flew ahead, scouting the path. "Kendi, over here!" Nzuri called from a nearby tree. Kendi hurried to where Nzuri was perched. The bird had found a small clearing with a beautiful flower she had never seen before. It had bright yellow petals and a sweet fragrance. "This flower is special," Nzuri said. "It only blooms when the spirits are near." Kendi knelt down to examine the flower. "It's beautiful, Nzuri. Maybe it's a sign that we're on the right path." She carefully picked the flower and put it in her bag, feeling that it might be important later. As they continued their journey, Kendi noticed more signs of the spirits. Strange markings on the trees, unusual animal tracks, and the feeling of being watched. She felt both excited and a little nervous. After walking for several hours, Kendi and Nzuri reached a small stream. They decided to take a break and rest. Kendi sat on a rock and took out some food from her bag. She shared her meal with Nzuri, who pecked at the crumbs gratefully. As they ate, Kendi thought about the journey ahead. "Nzuri, do you think we'll find the answers we're looking for?" she asked. Nzuri nodded. "I believe we will, Kendi. The spirits have guided us this far. We just need to trust them and keep moving forward." Kendi felt reassured by Nzuri's words. She finished her meal and stood up, ready to continue. "Let's go, Nzuri. We have a mystery to solve." As they walked, the forest began to change. The trees became taller and thicker, and the underbrush grew denser. Kendi had to push her way through the foliage, but she didn't mind. She was determined to find the source of the wind. Suddenly, they heard a strange noise. It was a soft, melodic sound, like music. Kendi and Nzuri followed the sound until they reached a clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a large, ancient tree. Its branches were covered in moss, and its trunk was wide and sturdy. The melodic sound seemed to be coming from the tree itself. Kendi approached the tree cautiously, feeling a sense of awe. "Nzuri, look at this tree. It's so old and beautiful," she whispered. Nzuri fluttered to a branch and looked around. "This tree is special, Kendi. I think it's connected to the spirits." Kendi nodded in agreement. She placed her hand on the tree's trunk and closed her eyes. She felt a strange sensation, as if the tree was speaking to her. The wind picked up, swirling around the clearing and rustling the leaves. Kendi listened carefully, trying to understand the message. She felt a sense of urgency and knew that she needed to find the source of the wind soon. "Thank you, tree," she whispered. "We'll find the answers and help our village." With renewed determination, Kendi and Nzuri continued their journey, following the wind and the whispers of the forest. As night began to fall, Kendi and Nzuri found a cozy spot under a large tree to rest. The forest was quiet, with only the sounds of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl. Kendi wrapped herself in her blanket and looked up at the stars. The sky was clear, and the stars twinkled brightly. She felt a sense of wonder and gratitude for the beauty of the night. Nzuri perched on a branch above her, keeping watch. "Kendi, do you think the spirits are watching over us?" the bird asked. Kendi smiled. "I think they are, Nzuri. They've guided us this far, and I believe they'll continue to help us." She closed her eyes and listened to the sounds of the forest, feeling a sense of peace. As Kendi drifted off to sleep, she dreamed of the wind. In her dream, the wind spoke to her, telling her stories of long ago. It showed her visions of the village, the drought, and the preparations they needed to make. Kendi saw herself and Nzuri finding the answers and bringing them back to Mbali. She woke up feeling more determined than ever to complete her journey. The next morning, Kendi woke up early and stretched. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the forest. Nzuri fluttered down from the branch and landed on Kendi's shoulder. "Good morning, Kendi. Did you sleep well?" the bird asked. Kendi nodded. "Yes, Nzuri. I had a dream about the wind. I think we're getting closer to finding the answers." They continued their journey, following the direction of the wind. As they walked, Kendi thought about her dream and the visions she had seen. She knew that they needed to find a way to help the villagers prepare for the drought. The wind had shown her the importance of storing food and water, and she was determined to find a way to make it happen. After walking for a few hours, Kendi and Nzuri came across a small cave. The entrance was hidden by vines and leaves, but Kendi felt drawn to it. "Nzuri, let's explore this cave. Maybe we'll find something useful inside," she said. Nzuri agreed, and they carefully made their way inside. The cave was dark and cool, with the sound of dripping water echoing through the space. Kendi took out a small lantern from her bag and lit it, illuminating the cave. As they ventured deeper, they discovered a beautiful underground lake. The water was crystal clear and seemed to glow with an ethereal light. Kendi knelt down and dipped her hand into the cool water. She felt a sense of calm and wonder as she watched the ripples spread across the lake. "Nzuri, look at this. It's so beautiful," she said. Nzuri fluttered down to the edge of the lake and took a sip of the water. "This water is special, Kendi. It's pure and refreshing. We should bring some back to the village." Kendi nodded in agreement. She took out an empty bottle from her bag and filled it with the glowing water. As she did, she noticed strange markings on the cave walls. They looked like ancient symbols and drawings, telling a story of the past. Kendi held up her lantern to get a better look. The drawings depicted a great drought that had affected the land long ago, just like the one Elder Django had mentioned. The villagers in the drawings were shown working together, storing food and water, and eventually overcoming the drought. Kendi felt a sense of connection to the villagers in the drawings. "These symbols tell a story, Nzuri, a story of survival and unity. We need to share this with our village." Nzuri nodded. "Yes, Kendi. The spirits have guided us here for a reason. We must learn from the past and prepare for the future." After filling a few more bottles with the special water, Kendi and Nzuri left the cave and continued their journey. The wind still blew strongly, but now it seemed to carry a message of hope and determination. Kendi felt a renewed sense of purpose as she walked. She knew that the journey was far from over, but she was confident that they were on the right path.